Hi, thanks for joining us again. We are here to talk about some very interesting topics, very important topics. Today, for example, we are talking about infant nutrition, and who better to talk to us about that than someone who is in the medical field. Joining me now in the studio is Michele Ramirez. She is a registered nurse for the City of Midland Health Services. Michele, thank you so much for joining us and taking some time out to talk to us about this very important subject.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, so a lot of people out there, parents, some of them new parents, some of them have been parents for quite a while, some of them are expecting for the first time. Let's just find out, for the little ones, for the babies, when is a good time to start thinking about their nutrition?
It's a good idea to start while you're still pregnant, because at birth is when you really want to start focusing on their nutrition. You want to already decide whether or not you're going to breastfeed, formula feed, things like that. So starting at birth is the ideal time to, think about nutrition and figure out how you want to feed your baby.
Okay, so you touched on it a little bit. Why is it important to start that early?
So the first 2 years of a baby's life, they're learning emotionally, mentally, behaviorally. That is a crucial time of growth.
Starting with breastfeeding, babies, what are the benefits to breastfeeding as opposed to using formula?
Okay, so a baby who is breastfed will get the antibodies from their mom, and that's going to help with their immune system. And it also helps prevent certain things. It can help prevent obesity, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes. It can help even prevent SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome. It's a wonderful source of nutrition. And the main thing is that it can help fight infections and things like that because of mom's antibodies that are being passed through to the baby.
Okay, speaking of mom, are there any benefits to the mother when we're talking about breastfeeding?
Definitely. Yeah, so a mom who breastfeeds will burn so many calories a day. So that's a benefit, especially if you're a new mom and you're kind of, uneasy about the weight that you've put on and you want to look to get it, take it back off. Burning those calories is gonna help with that. And not only that, but whenever you when you are breastfeeding, you're releasing different hormones. And so that's also helpful for mom. One of the hormones that is released is called oxytocin. And that hormone helps the uterus contract back to its pre-pregnancy size. And it also helps to prevent any kind of postpartum bleeding or anything like that. So that's a good thing for mom. It also releases another hormone called prolactin. And prolactin is just a hormone that helps us relax. So it's good for mom to, to breastfeed. So not only that, but you're bonding with your baby and you don't have to worry about prepping bottles or doing anything like that because you have everything you need right then and there.
And a one-stop shop, so to speak.
Exactly. And you don't have to worry about, recently there was a national shortage on formula, so that's also helpful and it's less stressful when you don't have to worry about things like that.
Okay, so let's go ahead and focus on baby again if we can.
Okay.
As far as breastfeeding is concerned, what are some of the vitamins, minerals, and things like that that are in breast milk that are beneficial to baby?
So the vitamins and minerals that are in breast milk, they have, everything that the mom has is going to be passed on to the baby. The only thing is it's going to kind of depend on mom's storage, vitamin storage, her diet, what type of foods she's consuming in order to pass those vitamins on, because there are some vitamins and minerals that don't pass through to the breast milk very well. One of them that does though is B12, and B12 is one of those vitamins that does pass through very well, and it's actually good for brain development. So it's really important. Iodine is another one that goes through pretty well, and that one has to do with your hormones, helping with your thyroid in order for your, to control your hormones and things like that. So that's important. But usually, vitamin D is not something that passes through very well, unfortunately. So it's a good idea if mom's only breastfeeding that she talked to her pediatrician about getting a supplement, a vitamin supplement. But other than that, you know, babies benefit quite a bit from breastfeeding as far as getting the vitamins and minerals that they need.
So again, that goes back to the whole starting early thing,
Right.
as early as you can with the feeding and the vitamins and minerals.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And it's a good idea, I'm sorry,
No, you're
it's a
good.
good idea for mom to continue taking her prenatal vitamin after she's had her baby, even though she's not pregnant anymore, in order to supplement those vitamins and minerals that she's going to need.
So she's given those to baby, so now
Yeah.
she needs to
Yeah.
store up for herself again.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and jump from infants to the next stage, which is obviously toddlers.
Okay.
And a lot of toddlers, by the time they get to, say, age one, 6 months to one, and then like that, they're starting to eat solid food.
Right.
What can you tell us about textures and variety of baby food?
So it's really important in order for a child to have different textures, varieties of foods. When they have different textures, it helps to develop their motor skills. And so they're able to grab foods, pinch at foods, you know, just kind of, they're developing all those skills. So
Babies love to grab at things.
Exactly,
So put it in
exactly.
their mouth.
Exactly. So that helps with all that, you know, the different textures and stuff. So, and then just giving them a different variety of flavors and things like that will help, you know, kind of broaden their horizon, so to speak, as far as food and nutrition. And so it's really important to offer your baby different stuff.
Now, a lot of moms, it's an old wives' tale a lot. You should never give baby this, or you should never give baby
Right.
that. Are there any truths, things like that?
There is truth to not giving babies honey. Babies should not have raw or cooked honey until they're a year old. That honey can cause botulism and it can be very fatal. So it's really important that parents do not give their babies honey. It's not even a good idea to give them cow's milk until they're over a year old as well. There's not enough nutrients and vitamins in there for them to sustain themselves. So it's not a good idea.
Would there be an exception to, say, like all the alternatives that we have now, soy milk and things like that?
Yeah, so it just would probably depend if that baby is allergic to something that they can't have, you know, a certain formula, if that formula causes them to get sick, or if mom's just not breastfeeding. Then yeah, there's soy formulas and things like that that they can, lactose free, that they can also change to. But the cow's milk is just not a good idea.
Okay. Now, there's always going to be that debate between store-bought baby food and homemade.
Yes.
Do you want to chime in on that?
There's not really much of a difference, except for the fact that when you do have homemade baby food, you're putting in the ingredients and you're doing everything. But as far as like the heavy metal levels that they found in homemade baby foods and store-bought baby foods, there's not much of a difference.
So one's not really any safer than the other.
No, and they each have their pros and cons. So if you choose to do homemade, you know, the pros are that you're putting your own stuff in there, you're limiting, you know, salt, sugar. The cons are the shelf life's not very long as opposed to store-bought baby food. And you know, you can do different kinds and, you know, have different flavors. The store-bought brands though do have different flavors, and then they go up to like different stages and stuff. But I mean, to each his own. If you prefer to do the homemade, you know, and you feel like that's more nutritious for your baby, which it is, it's a nutritious alternative. It's just, you know, it can be time consuming, but you know, and like I said.
So we've talked about, you know, texture and homemade versus store-bought. When is a good time? I don't want to say the right time, because it's probably going to be different for different children, but when is a good time to start your baby on solid food?
So babies should start solid foods when they are 4 to 6 months, no sooner than 4 months. So your baby should be able to sit up on their own. They don't do that little tongue thrust anymore. They can control their neck and their head. What else? They they seem interested in food at that point, you know. So anywhere between 4 and 6 months. So experts lean towards the 6 months, but it's also going to depend on your baby's gestational age when they were born. If your baby was a premature baby, they may not be ready at 4 to 6 months. So that's something that you'd have to talk to your pediatrician about.
And is there a particular type of food that's best to start with?
Fortified cereals, or fortified cereals, they have fortified iron, zinc, nutrients, things like that would be a good way to start. And you can mix it with the formula or the breast milk and feed your baby that way. It's best not to put it in the bottle. It's best to feed the baby with a spoon.
Spoon feeding. Okay. And every parent can agree with what I'm about to ask you. You're going to have your picky eaters.
Yes.
What can you do about that?
Well.
Are you a mom?
Yes.
Okay, so that was an experienced. I could tell.
Yes. I had a picky eater. Oh.
So what as a mom and as a nurse, what can you tell parents out there?
So when you have a picky eater, the best thing to do is to continue to introduce foods to that child. Don't stress out. Don't make it a big deal. You know, if they don't like something, you don't want to force them. You don't, because that child is already kind of feeling some sort of anxiety as it is because they don't like certain things. So it doesn't help, you know, when you need to eat this, you need to eat this. So, you know, you can do different things with foods, maybe introduce it, make funny faces on their plate with, you know, the foods that you're trying to introduce to your child.
I do that right now, and I'm a grown-up.
There you go, right? Little eyeballs for, you know, pancakes.
Make it fun.
Yeah, exactly. Make it fun. Don't make it too stressful. You know, at the end of the day, your kid's going to eat what they want to eat. And, you know, it just creates more stress and anxiety. But just continue to kind of introduce foods to them. You can eat that food in, you know, front of them and say, hey, this is really good. You know, just try it. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But, you know, just kind of continue to introduce them to different things. And eventually, you know, my picky eater, he loves fish now. We didn't have fish when he was growing up in my house because I don't like fish. But now that he's out on his own, he loves fish. So it's like, okay, so maybe I should have done that.
So parents shouldn't hold off of giving a child something to eat just because they don't like it.
Exactly.
Give them what they like.
Exactly. Okay. So, you know, and the older they get, give them options and choices, things like that, so that they feel that sense of, you know, they're making their own decisions.
And of course, all of those options, those textures, that's going to change once they start teething.
Exactly. Yes. So they do make the little baby foods, like little snacks and things like that
crackers
have crackers. Yes. So that would be a good idea to introduce them to, you know, so that they have those different textures where they can kind of pick things up and taste things and see if that's what they like.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So we've had baby. We've introduced them to baby food. So the question here now is, how do you know when the baby is hungry?
Okay.
What are some things to look for? Obviously, when they're babies, they're going to cry, they're going to fuss. But as they get older, what are some things for new parents to look for?
Babies will express their emotions. They have hunger cues, is what they're called. And so if a baby is hungry, they will tend to look, you know, turn their head, look for the breast or the bottle. They'll start to suck on their little fist. They'll, you know, kind of like become a little more alert, look around. And of course, if those cues are ignored, they start to cry. So that's the most obvious one.
And how do those signs change as they get older?
As they get older, they'll start to get more excited when they see food. They'll want to eat what you're eating. You know, if you're, you know, eating a slice of pizza or something, they may try to reach for it. They'll do things like that just to kind of say, hey, I'm hungry. But
so it's not just, a lot of parents will think that, they just want to play with it. That could actually be a sign that they want something
right,
to
that
eat.
they want to taste it, or they want something to eat, yes. They start to become more aware of food, and, you know, they want to maybe taste what it is that you have there. So, yeah.
So they're definitely going to tell you they're hungry and they want
Oh, yeah,
something.
definitely.
In one way or another.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now we have fed baby, or we're feeding baby or our toddler.
Okay.
If we can pop that slide up one more time, how do you know when they've had enough?
Babies, so a newborn baby will relax, maybe fall asleep. They will turn their head away from the breast or the bottle, and they'll just, you can tell that they're full. They won't, suckle anymore. An older baby, they will push themselves away from the table, maybe turn their head back and just kind of like, I don't want any more, I'm good.
Spit it out when you put it
Spit
in
it
their
out,
mouth.
exactly. So they'll do things like that, and that tells you that this child does not want any more to eat.
Of course, the spitting it back out part could also be a sign that they just don't like it.
That's true too. That's true
So
too.
how do you differentiate between one and the other?
So usually if it's just like the first couple of bites and they're spitting it out, then right then and there, they probably don't like it. But yeah, if they've already eaten like half the jar of the baby food and they're just kind of like spitting it out, maybe they just don't want any more.
Okay, very good to know that.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the development of our baby and our toddler.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you can give them specifically that'll help brain development?
Yes. So brain development is the brain is developed through like fatty acids, B12 vitamins, things like that. So everything that this baby is going to eat or drink as far as formula is going to help with that brain development.
Are there some things in particular that you can suggest or recommend?
Really just maybe fish. Fish has a lot of B12, maybe eggs, things like that. Any kind of animal meat like poultry, beef.
The whole thing that we were talking about earlier,
Right.
just because mom and dad don't like this particular piece of food,
Yes.
let baby try it anyway.
Exactly. And they do, studies have shown that, right now we have a lot of children that have peanut allergies and things like that. So researchers have found that a lot of times if you introduce things like nuts and fish and eggs, what, most people are allergic to now, if you introduce that at an early age, a lot of times that can help prevent them being allergic to it later on. So
That's good to know.
Yeah,
Especially
it
for
is.
new parents.
Exactly. So maybe introducing that at the beginning, when they're still little, that might help prevent them from.
So we've had some really good information as far as what to feed your child, when to feed them, signs to look for. But for first-time parents, are there any misconceptions out there that they need to be aware of and just avoid?
A lot of misconceptions, there's so many, but one of them is where parents will feed their baby either formula, breast milk, baby doesn't finish it all, and they think, well, we'll just reheat it later on and give it to them later. That's not exactly a safe thing to do. The best thing to do is to discard any undrank, anything that hasn't been drank yet, the formula or the breast milk. Microorganisms tend to develop in the breast milk or the formula as soon as baby puts it down and if it's been sitting there for a little bit. So it's a good idea not to reheat it, not to reuse it, just throw it out. Another thing is that parents tend to warm up bottles in the microwave. That's not a good idea either. So it's best to warm it up in hot water, leave it just sitting there, maybe boil a pan of water and then turn it off, take it off the stove, and then place the cold bottle in there.
And what's a good way to tell if the milk is the good temperature, the right temperature?
So you want to shake the bottle, and then you want to drop a little bit on your wrist, and as long as it's not burning you, then it should not burn the baby either.
Okay.
It should be nice and lukewarm.
Okay, so a lot of good advice for new parents, future parents, current parents that may not have known some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to add that we didn't cover that would be beneficial?
Just basically, give your baby choices the older that they get. I wish I had done that.
Speaking from experience.
Yeah, speaking from experience. I wish I had given him a little bit more, leeway when it came to him deciding what he wants to do. But, again, if you have a picky eater, give them a vitamin, and that way they can gather those nutrients and vitamins and minerals from some source. But it's just, it's tough, but.
And no one's going to do it perfectly the first time.
No. And every child is different. Every child is different. So just because your niece or nephew is doing, ready to start solid foods and they're about the same age as your child doesn't mean that your child is ready, Every child is different. So don't stress out if your baby's not ready for certain things yet, because like I said, everybody's different, And just because this child likes this and your child doesn't like that doesn't, don't stress out about that. It'll be okay.
Okay. Now, I know, especially with my culture, your culture as well, you always have the mom or the grandma that says,
Yes.
no, Mija, you've got to do this, this, and this. It's not really up to mom's decision. It's baby who's calling the shots.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's a good, as parents, we're going to guide them, but yeah, at the end of the day, if your child just does not like something, they're not going to like something. However, it does take about 10 tries to get a child to like something. So you may have to continue to introduce it here and there, and maybe eventually they'll like it, and there's that chance that they probably won't. But it's, it's one of those things where, you just got to do what you can to try to nourish your child and hope for the best.
All right, so that's a lot of good information, again, for current parents, new parents, or about to become parents. Michele, thank you very much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
And bringing this to us. And we will see you again next time right here at News West 9.
Thank you.